Wanna talk? How you try and press the kid and read it, you was soft. All you know is capping, homie, you don't know the law. Pedal to the metal, you ain't catching me in park. I just hit the start.
Hey folks, good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everybody out there. This is the MCU'S Bleeding Edge YouTube channel and podcast. We have a 90s classic thriller to review this Friday evening, 3/21/2025. And it is Basic Instinct, as you can see in all of the fine gentlemen's green screens. So yes, we are doing Basic Instinct, which I'm sure we're going to explore everybody here on the panels, relationship with the film overall. With us tonight, as always, like every other Friday night, my co-host Cyberneticshark is here. Cyber, what are you eating tonight, sir?
Boneless wings and a hamburger.
Okay, that sounds good, sir.
You got the hamburger.
Oh, Andres nailed it.
Yeah, there you go. All right, with us as usual. Andres, the pop culture guy. What's up, Andres, the pop culture guy?
Doing good. Happy to see you guys again. So excited to talk about this classic film.
That's right. We missed you last Friday for Backdraft. It was you missed a great show. And Matthew's on double duty 2 weeks in a row with us from Born to Watch, a movie podcast. Good to see you again, mate.
Yeah, gentlemen, thanks for having me again. This is a movie that I could not refuse. Basic Instinct, one of the great 90s thrillers, and it's always good to see Sharon Stone in the flesh.
Yes, most definitely. And you guys already reviewed this on Born to Watch, so we've got a little bit of a crossover going on there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, opening question, guys. What's everybody's watch history and everything, and your recollections as best as you can remember when it comes to your first watch of this film, I guess, and then how's the movie holding up for you, overall in 2025? And I'll start with you, Andres.
Okay. This is my first time full watch of the film. I seen bits of it when I was growing up. And of course, pop culture wise, I understood the reference. Like, obviously, before we went to air, we were joking about the Seinfeld thing, and Seinfeld like parodied the scene in season 8, and with Newman, chasing Jerry for mail fraud. If everyone knows that episode, so I was very excited to see this film. I'm a huge fan of the director Paul Verhoeven. A great director who's done amazing classics. I mean, Showgirls, Starship Troopers, Total Recall, and RoboCop, my personal favorite from his filmography. So, and to see it today, I think it holds up. It's a great classic film. It just has that great combination of like suspense, kind of mouse, that noir thriller, from like the 1940s, and the acting is just top notch from, our leads here, Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone. So I'm very excited to talk about this with you guys. And yeah, that's how my connection is with this movie.
That's right. It was directed by Paul Verhoeven, written by Joe S. Terrace, and starring Michael Douglas, Sharon Stone, George DeZunda, G.N. Triplehorn, and Wayne Knight. Cyber, sir, what are your what's your relationship and what's your first watch remembrance of this film?
So I didn't see this until it had already been out for like 20 plus years. I probably didn't see it. I didn't see the whole film for the first time probably till like 2010. I remember, enjoying it because I enjoy a good thriller film that has, a thriller aspect, finding out who the killer is and stuff like that. And then, of course, this movie is so regarded for its female women in this film, and their wonderful in the fleshness. And so, this film is definitely one of those films that you're like, you can't go wrong with it. It's just enjoyable to watch, and it's got a good storyline, and it's just an all-around great thriller. So, the first time I watched it, I really enjoyed it, of course. Who doesn't like TNA? So I mean, right there, that makes it a 10 in my book. It could have had the shittiest, horriblest storyline ever, like Basic Instinct 2. Basically, Sharon Stone, Janine Triple Horn could save it. So, it's one of those things. This is one of those films that just is, really just a great film. And, it being 32 years old, 33, going on 33 now, I think it still holds up. I mean, a lot of people probably wouldn't try to make this movie today, because of all the, people out there that are, crybabies. But this was just a fantastic film, I thought. And I think it still is a great film, even 30 plus years later. So, really solid film, I think.
No, Cyber, I don't see anybody making a movie like this right now. But what do you think, Matthew?
Look, I can't disagree with anything that the boys have said so far. I think that Paul Verhoeven is one of the great underrated filmmakers. I think that all his movies, like Total Recall, this, Starship Troopers, they all hold up today. They look as great today as they did when they were made. And I think that this especially, watching this again, and I saw this, unlike you boys, I saw this not at the movies, but very closely after on VHS. I was 17 when this movie came out, so I was right in the thick of my pleasuring myself whenever possible. And here in Australia, it was a thing that we would call the guilt years, where you thought that you were the only person on the planet that was masturbating. So you had this massive shroud of guilt over yourself, thinking you were doing something horrifically wrong. And this movie was right in the middle of the guilt years. So for me, a lot of fond memories of that. Many people, we don't deal with that sort of feeling anymore around self-gratification. But I've got to say, the movie is a fun watch. I think it is really well acted. It's actually, the script is great, although, again, a bit like last week with Backdraft, where we talked about, does Joe Eszterhas, the writer, did he know whether Catherine did it or didn't do it? Or did they decide halfway through that they were just going to leave it ambiguous? It's one of those ones, again, where there's so many red herrings thrown at you that you tend to sort of go, well, what is actually going on here? On multiple viewings, I think it's pretty easy to work out, and you can draw your own conclusion at the end as to what Nikki's fate is, whether he's going to fall to the ice pick or not, and whether you're romantic or whether you're not. But I think Sharon Stone is, in 1992, had to be the most beautiful woman on the planet. She is so stunning in this film, beautiful and natural. And then on the other side of that, you got Michael Douglas with the worst ass cheeks in Hollywood. So you get a bit of everything in Basic Instinct. And mate, as I said, this movie is as good today as what it was in 1992. In fact, I actually think it's aged even better because, as you guys said, a movie like this doesn't get made anymore. So it's so rare to find this erotic thriller. And at that time, it was a bit of a thing, the erotic thriller. Like we spoke off air about Slither. There was also Colour of Night with Bruce Willis getting his little wanger out in the pool. There was the one with Madonna and Willem Dafoe. So this erotic thriller was a bit of a thing in the 90s. Today, you just can't find them. So this is why I think it's even better.
I used to watch Color of the Night all the time on VHS. Yeah, when I was at the same age that I first watched Basic Instinct, Color of the Night was in heavy rotation for me as a kid.
Well, the girl in Color of Night, Jane March, was 18 when they made that movie. 18, and she's doing full-on nude sex scenes with Bruce Willis, who must have been twice her age. Like that wouldn't happen today.
Yeah, that's an interesting movie. That one would actually make for a decent review, to be honest with you. But I first saw it on VHS probably in the mid 90s or something like that, when I was around like 12 or something. And I watched it quite a few times as a kid. I always just thought it was a really interesting movie, regardless of the nudity aspect of it, which is obviously a big highlight too, seeing that watch on the rewatch, seeing the Sharon Stone crotch shot again, you don't see a lot of straight vagina shots in movies, you know. So seeing that is just always for me stands out. You know what I mean? Like that's the classic scene from the film, is that in that interrogation scene, right? You know, a la Matthew's green screen. So okay, so in terms of the plot of the film, how it starts off. In San Francisco, a blonde woman ties a retired rock star, Johnny Boz, to a bed with a silk scarf during sex, then stabs him to death with an ice pick in a brutal stabbing, 90s style stabbing. Detective Nick Curran and his partner Gus Moran investigate the murder. The prime suspect is Boz's girlfriend, the crime novelist Catherine Tremble, whose novel mirrors the crime. So we get the first introduction by Nick's character with Catherine, their initial meeting or whatever before she comes in for the interrogation. I think also in the opening, we also get the introduction of GN Triplehand's character as the psychologist that's sort of doing Nick's in-house therapy or whatever with the department, right? Because of his shooting or whatever that he did when he was undercover. That they talk about later on during the film. Hence his nickname Shooter. Pretty much, that's sort of the introduction, and I'll start with you, Matthew. What's your take on the intro of the film? That stabbing is brutal.
Yeah, it's an absolutely cracking start to a movie. I think that the credit sequence is so long and the music is so good, and then all of a sudden we come above the bed and we look down and there's, for the time, a fairly graphic sort of sex scene going on, and you see quite a bit. I guess from our perspective, that already we're being told that Catherine is the probable killer because we see her doing it. But I had not watched this movie since we watched it for Born to Watch about 12 months ago, and I was taken aback by the stabbing scene as I was when I watched it last year for our podcast. It's so violent. Like you see, they say they stabbed him 33 times or whatever, and you see almost every one of those 33 stabs in that scene. And then I think it's really interesting that we get introduced to her that way, and then we are introduced to all the main characters in this first sort of 10-minute block, which is really cool. We get to know a little bit about each of them. We know that Nick is another dead shit cop, essentially. He's a dodgy cop, and what he could be. Here's my theory: is that he's actually in the movie Black Rain in 1989, the 1988 or 89 movie, Ridley Scott movie Black Rain, where he goes to Japan. He's a dodgy cop there, where he took the bribe in there, and his name is Nick in that movie. I actually think this is an older Nick. A few years later, he's moved on. He's changed his name. This is Nick. He's living it again, and he's still dodgy. We don't really find out much about what he does, but we still get that feeling that he's a bit dodgy. But I think I like him. I think Nick as a character is a great character, even though, come on, mate, no man falls in love that quickly. No man, she must have, we know she's got an incredible vagina. She must, but no man can fall that quickly and go back to the drink, start smoking again after 6 hours of meeting this woman. But we know just how alluring and how manipulative Catherine is. We know this in 10 minutes of the movie. I think that's a really good setup, so that we know as we move forward in the movie that we're not really to believe anything that happens. I've got a little bit later on to talk about Jean Triplehorn as the psychiatrist that / sex slave for Nick. But look, I think it's a great start. We're right. If you're not invested after the start of this movie, then you are numb.
I think on the second stab, the girl stabs the guy in the head.
Yeah,
it's right in the head, with the stab. You know what I mean? It's fucking brutal, bro.
It is a confronting death scene.
Yes. Cyberneticshark, sir, what do you think?
I mean, the beginning scene, minus the gore, I really don't pay attention to that. I just pay attention to the naked woman riding the guy. I'm sorry, the killing I could care less about. Like you're watching it, and next thing you know, all you can take is your eye. You can't take your eyes off her, and you're just kind of like, okay, this is really hot, but at the same time, you're like, but she's about to kill him. You're like, kind of like, that kind of sucks at the same time, bro. But I mean, at least you're dying in ecstasy. I mean, that's all I got to say.
Not a bad way to go.
Not a bad way to go. So, I mean, yes, definitely between the theatrical cut and the director's cut, definitely the editing of that scene was very superiorly different, especially because they were trying not to get the NC-17 at the time. So Paul Verhoeven had to like remove between, I think it was like 35 to 40 seconds from that scene. So there was actually when it went directly to VHS in 93 and it was in theaters, it actually cut out a couple of the stabs in that beginning scene to get the R rating. So seeing it, the director's cut, and seeing that full on, you're kind of like, whoa, that's pretty graphic. But at the same time, you're like, I think they did an amazing job making that look so real. They did a fantastic job. But overall, I mean, the beginning sequence there, just, seeing this, getting you into the film, it really pulls you in because you're like, I'm totally in, because especially if you're a man watching this, you were like, oh, okay, A, naked woman, B, thriller aspect, killing, yes, action. So, I mean, that just pulls you right in there. So I think that it's a really great opening that really, I mean, every time I watch it, I'm just like, I always forget that it starts off right off the bat like that. And I'm just like, holy crap. And at the same time, it's just like you're invested, you're pulled in. So I think they did a really good job there. And I think that was great directing by Paul Verhoeven, because he knew if he had put that right at the beginning, he knew that would draw the male audience in and want them to watch it. So I think that was very clever directing there. Are we just talking about that scene, sir, or where are we going?
Just going up to the introduction of the psychologist character, G.N. Triplehorn's introduction into the character, where we first get her meeting Nick, and the first introduction of Catherine and Nick when before she comes in for the interrogation.
Okay, so I mean I think that's very cleverly written. I think it's a great sequence, being introduced to Nick and to Janine Triplehone's character. I think that it's a really very smoothly, kind of played out sequence that really gives you kind of idea of kind of where these people are. I mean, you definitely right off the bat, you're like, okay, Nick definitely is not your common detective. There's definitely something gritty about him. Like, he's not like by your book type of guy. You can tell that he's grizzled, he's been around for a while, and that he does things differently than other detectives would. And then, of course, him having this kind of relationship with Janine Triplehone, that's this, character as well that is like a psychiatrist and everything. You're kind of like, definitely that pushes Nick into that crazy territory. Like, he would do anything. Like, this is not your regular detective. Like, he would kill something, cover it up, to make the case go his way type of deal. So that's what that beginning section of them being introduced makes me that's what starts getting me rolling. It gets me thinking like, oh, in that process. And then Janine Tripplehorn, I think is a very underrated actress. I think she's fun. Even though she doesn't have a huge part in this film, I still think that what she provides is really done well. And the first movie I ever saw her in actually was Waterworld. I had seen Waterworld before I saw this. So I remember thinking, like, oh, like she's fun. I think she's great. I think she's attractive. And I actually think she's more attractive than Sharon Stone, honestly, in my opinion. So I think that she was a great addition. And I thought she was kind of a good side character that was, Michael Douglas's characters, kind of like a fair secret kind of lover type of deal. So I think that the very beginning of this film is really good, really gets you invested into the film and really pulls it all in.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Gian Triplehorn and Basic Instinct might be hotter than Sharon Stone, to be honest with you. Like naked.
Oh, stop.
I'm just being honest.
Stop the silly words that are coming out of both of your mouths. Stop now.
I mean, but anyways, Andres, what are your thoughts on the intro?
I will say, I think both women are beautiful and sexy. I love them both as actresses. The opening I was kind of shocked about it, but then at the same time, it's like, if you haven't seen any of Paul's films, like RoboCop, Total Recall, the Starship Troopers, like, he's so good at those crazy, like, aggressive violence. The gore is so spectacular, and so if you're not into that, then the opening doesn't get you. But if you know his film and you know him, who, like, he's so good at satirizing America in general, and I think this scene just perfectly does that. I mean, him having apparently this retired rock star, is having sex with this beautiful blonde lady, and then bam, she put the ice pick on him, and it's like, whoa! I was like, what is this, Cycle 2.0? But in the 90s, I was like, whoa. And then, of course, we're getting the introduction to Nick, played by Michael Douglas. This is the trilogy I call the Michael Douglas sexy man trilogy. Fatal Attraction, this, and Disclosure. Like, this guy, like, has this weird obsession of just getting in trouble with women, having sex with them.
I like how you called it Sexy Man Trilogy, sir. That's a great title, sir. I think you should package it.
I mean, I don't know what to call that trilogy. I mean, erotic trilogy.
I don't know. I'm kind of worried for you there, buddy.
Yeah. So, but man, Michael Douglas, great actor, love him. In this movie, he's so spectacular. My favorite character, we'll get into Gus. We see his partner Gus. Love this, police partner. Definitely the best in the film. And this opening is just like the typical police procedure. They're going through the case here. I was so surprised how quickly, Catherine is going to be the suspect, very quickly, and then you find out she's like this, like, novelist, crime thriller person, that writes these kind of stories. And the minute when they say that the book that she had previously, like, goes beat to beat what the crime we just saw now, is just so, like, what the hell, like, mind, like, fucking just now. And it's like, oh my god. Yeah, and it's very typical. When you have a cop that has this dark past, it's always in that, like, police, cop films. Like, as Matt, you brought it before, was it Black Rain? He was that troubled, cop. Yeah, we've seen this before. I was kind of curious what's his big deal in this movie, what his troubled past was. So we'll get into that later. And then meaning his ex-fling / therapist, Dr. whatever his name is,
Garner,
Dr. Garner. I was like, oh wow. And he has the best lines here. He said, well, my sex life got shittier after we broke up. I was like, oh wow. Okay. So yeah, love this opening. Just straight to the point. You got, like, you're getting introduced to your characters. Like, by the way, Sharon Stone just steals the scene so perfectly. I forgot she was in Total Recall. That was the first time she worked with this director. So, like, I think she was so perfect for this role. Like, immediately when Gus and Nick, the two cops, go to over her house, it's so, like, the dialogue is so, like, pop and, like, spicy, and it's like the way she handles herself is so cool. But yeah, I love this opening. It got me hooked right away in the film.
She's good in Total Recall too.
Yeah, she's great in that.
So moving forward, we get the interrogation scene. So Catherine is uncooperative and taunts the investigators by smoking and exposing herself in the scene. And as Andres mentioned in the studio before the show, Newman's there. Newman makes an appearance for the interrogation from Seinfeld. Although she is released, Nick discovers that she has a history of befriending murderers. This includes Roxy Hardy, the girlfriend of Catherine's, who killed her 2 younger brothers at the age of 16, and Hazel Dobkins, who killed her husband and children. So Nick, who accidentally shot 2 tourists while high on cocaine during an undercover assignment, attends counseling sessions with the police psychologist, Dr. Beth Garner. And they have that short, like, aggressive, rough sex scene during this part of the film, where Nick rips her clothes off and all that shit, and tears her underwear and all that. But he 2-pump chumps her on that, though, so that kind of, is kind of lame. Nick discovers that Catherine is using him as the basis for the protagonist of her latest book, in which his character is murdered after falling for the wrong woman. Suspicious that she has bribed Lieutenant Marty Nilsson for his psychiatric file, Nick assaults Nilsson in his office. Nilsson is then found murdered, and Nick is suspected and placed on leave. So I'll stop there. I'll go to you, Cyber. What are your thoughts, sir, on that section?
Okay. So pretty much this kind of, gives you a good idea of kind of the relationship between Nick and Beth. As you mentioned, you get that great scene. I think it's one of my favorite scenes in the film, and we get to see Triple Horn, which once again, I have to say, hotter than Sharon Stone. Sorry. And so I think that, that scene was just like really just fantastic, and gives you kind of an idea of like what kind of guy, once again, giving you more idea behind who Nick is. And that, he is kind of devious. He's deviant. I mean, he does this, basically forces sex on her and everything like that. So, I mean, it keeps putting into, aspect what, kind of the kind of person Nick is. And I think that does a good job of kind of expressing that and giving you more about like kind of like there's more to Nick than meets the eye, basically. And you get, kind of that, sequence there, kind of seeing that, he's having to take counseling because of the incident that happened. And of course, we get the interrogation sequence with Sharon Stone, which, the story has been told several times. She said, she agreed to not wear panties during the scene, but she did not know that it was actually going to show the crotch, and stuff like that, which she's told in the last couple of years now. She said that a couple times now, which I think is funny. And I'm just like, you're making an erotic thriller. What do you expect? They asked you not to wear panties in that scene. What do you think was going to happen? So, I crack up at that every time I hear her mention that. And I'm just like, okay. But, anyways, so that scene is very iconic. Of course, we have, Michael Douglas there. Wayne Knight, of course, is there. And that great expression that Wayne Knight gives as it's happening, he's just like, you're just kind of like, no, I would get that kind of too. If I saw that in person, most definitely of a very attractive woman. And, it's kind of one of those, super iconic scenes, which honestly, I think the movie is so much more than just that scene, though. There's so much better to this film than just that scene. And I always find it funny that that's like the main thing they always talk about. And, I think that scene is so quick and short. And really, I don't think it doesn't do much for me, honestly. I think that there's plenty of other scenes throughout the film that are far superior. So I think that, that being kind of that main focus because she showed her crotch. I'm just like, how many other movies women have shown their crotch in that by, at this point? I'm like, it's not like it's a big deal, but I'm sure in 1992, this was such a big deal. But I kind of find it funny that that scene is considered so iconic. But for me, I think it's just another scene as a part of the film. But I think it's still a great scene because, we get to see kind of Catherine, how she kind of is. We see more of her defiantness. We get to see kind of like, why she's considered a suspect. Why, it seems like her book that she writes, and stuff like that is, kind of almost a memoir type of deal. And I think that scene really kind of, shows that and gives us that idea, and kind of her defiant behavior. And we kind of see we can also see Nick kind of starting to become infatuated with her too, because as the movie progresses, we know he just gets more infatuated with her. So, I mean, this is kind of the beginning part where he starts really becoming infatuated, I feel, with this sequence. So I think it's a really great section of the film. It gives you quite a bit to talk, digest. It gives you kind of an idea more into both Catherine and Nick. Gives you a little bit about Beth and kind of Beth and Nick's relationship there. And I think it's a solid section that is very entertaining.
Yeah, and the place work stuff is also kind of interwoven, and it's somewhat interesting as well. What's your take, Andres?
Yeah. I mean, this is a spectacular sequence. I think the acting is top notch here. I was kind of surprised that this speaking of this scene, the interrogation scene, very iconic. Has been spoofed, been pop culture wise, like I mean, Seinfeld did it with Night as well with Seinfeld, but differently. Mail fraud. I was surprised how early it was. Like that quickly, we went to the introduction scene. I was like, oh wow, I thought will probably be later in the film, but no, it was like, oh, we're there. I was like, oh man, this is juicy. And I do agree with Cyber. I think people do miss the point. Like I mean, yes, the scene is so iconic, but I just love how like she's fucking Nick's mind. She's doing this already, the kind of mouse thing, like getting Nick's head, because like she, slowly in this beginning sequence and the interaction sequence, she's like having this like personal information she knows about Nick that it was kind of surprising. Like he knew that he was not smoking, he doesn't drink anymore, and then she's kind of like making this assumption around the comps that like they kind of know each other, which is weird because he doesn't even know her before this crime happened. So like she's like you're already seeing the seed of like her like setting up her crime, like setting up this like kind of mouse and this mind fuck against all the cops around it. So I think that's one of the great things about her character here is just like she's such a like credible mastermind at this moment, and this it's so funny. And I can't believe those guys were like, I don't know how many hours they were there, but like drinking coffee and water while interrogating her it's like wow, you stood tall, you guys, with that. Yeah, then Nick, I don't know why Nick gets so infatuated with her. I guess she's hotter than Beth. I mean, she's blonde. I mean, she has that like Alfred Hitchcock, thing, and I cannot blame him for that. Yeah, then of course you get more with the Beth. Nick relationship a bit more. Well, you don't get like why they're together, and obviously we don't get the plot twist about his wife because I was kind of surprised that he was married, and we'll get into that later on. But I thought that rough sex scene was so bizarre, and then I realized because Sam brought up the uncut version, I think that it was good that they cut that out because I think it could have made Nick way more like a horrible person to not like as a protagonist. I think it's good they cut out a little bit of that, like that rough sex scene with Dr. Garner, because it could have easily looked him as like a really bad person. Like the fact
she says no like multiple
times. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. But also like she also is allowing it too. Like she's not stopping him. So I don't know. That scene was weird for me. That's the one nitpick I would say. It's like I and personally these two are so like intoxicated with each other. Like they're so bad for each other. Like as a couple. But overall, great sequence. It did not disappoint. I was like, oh yeah, we're cooking here with the interaction scene. And Wayne Knight came out. I was like, yes, Newman, and he did not disappoint. And oh my god, when he see the crouch, I was like, oh my god, he like look, doing his tie. I was like, yeah, brother, I'm with you, sir. Oh man, I had to go to the bathroom after that. I was like, oh my god, I was like, whew, oh boy. That was too much for me. Anyway, great sequence. Happy to talk about it. Wayne Knight, you're my favorite actor. So happy to see you in this film.
Okay. Matthew.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about the interrogation where you've got 6 horny men sitting opposite a woman that is way beyond all their abilities to attract, and they just look. She knows she's got them in the palm of her hand. They are just putty to to her, and it's funny. Like I'm with you, Andres. I'd forgotten how early in the movie the spread leg scene comes. It's very early, but you know what? And Cyber made a really good point as well. Is that the movie's so much more than this scene, but you've also then got to think is this movie anywhere near as popular if that scene isn't in the movie? Because it is the absolute hook of the movie, that 5 seconds, right? And with the right television, you see more than you've ever seen before. Like you see absolute definition of her undercarriage. It's really quite incredible that they got away with that, really. But in saying that, I think what the best part of that is you seeing just how much smarter she is than the people that are chasing her. Everyone but Nick. And I think the thing that you find out about Nick is that Nick still thinks she's the murderer, but he's just intoxicated by her. He just cannot stop, which I find is a bit odd because he's supposed to be this king shit cop. And he falls so quick, so fast, and all his faculties are gone. But as we start to learn more, and we do learn a lot about Nick's dark side through the rape scene with him and the doctor, that is nothing short of that. It is, she says no several times. He rips her clothes off, and yeah, it's a bit erotic at the start, but when he throws her over the chair, I'm not even sure he's entering hole 1. I think he's gone straight to hole 2, and I think he is really effectively tearing her a new asshole, right? She's not enjoying it. It is unpleasant. At the end then I find it's hilarious that they are spooning on the floor, right? And she's, all I'm thinking is she's going, Nick, can you go to the freezer and get a pack of frozen peas so I can put them on my bumhole, right? It's incredible that they then spoon, and she's like, you've never done that before. No, I've never done it in the blurter with you before. It's the first time. And you know what? It was rough and ready. There was lubeless, and it was just, let's just get it done. Like, it was such an insight into that character that then makes you think that anything that is said about him is true, right? That he's capable of anything. And I think that's why that scene is there, because we actually have to think that he could have killed those people on purpose, that he was a cocaine addict, that he's obviously a sex addict, and it's life imitating art because, you know, he's exactly that. But it's an interesting part of the movie because, again, it starts to throw up a lot of questions as to, like, how did the police know that him and Triplehorn are having an affair? Everyone in that bar knows. When Kruger smoothing from Seinfeld goes, shooter, hey shooter, and hey shooter, and then they leave the bar together, everyone knows he's going to root her. The whole police department knows. How do they allow her to continue to be his therapist when they're having an affair? It's just a very odd relationship in the film, that one. And that scene is there for one particular reason. One is, nowadays, doesn't matter. Like, anal sex is a big thing nowadays, apparently. So they tell me. All the kids are doing it. Back in the 90s, it was like no one. It was not a done thing. It was not said. It was not spoken about, right? But today, it'd be like, yeah, he's thrown it in hole 2. There's no dramas about that. Give it a crack. But I think it's a really important part of the film. But again, I think this part of the film throws up a lot more questions than it does answers. And some of them get answered, some of them don't as the movie goes on. I'm out. I've talked enough about it.
I'd already gone to hole 2 by the late 90s in my personal life. So I was doing it. You know.
Yeah, but it wasn't. I don't think it was as socially acceptable as what it is today.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't like it wasn't as on the menu.
You were groundbreaking. You were groundbreaking.
Yes, it was. It wasn't like a lot of times. It was like a one-time thing, and then a couple more times, like in the early 2000s, I did it too. You know, but like it's really become like more of a like culturally, it's a lot more acceptable in relations, as you know, being a single guy out there. You know, it is really much more on the table now. You know,
well, we have Pornhub and that to thank for that, right? I'm
happy with it. I enjoy it. You know, I see it as a positive to be able to add that to the menu of options that are on the table.
Let's just clear it up now, Dr. Marvel. Are we talking obviously giving, not receiving, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. Just clearing that up.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure whether it was Jeff S. True Knowledge pegging edition.
No flip flopping on that either. So I'm always the giver in that area. You know, believe me, I've had a finger stuck up in my ass once or twice throughout the course of my life by a chick. And I never liked it any time it happened. I was never like, oh, eureka, this is my shit. You know what I mean? You know, like, oh, great, you know. But I will say that I did have this one girlfriend at community college that used to like to toss my salad occasionally. That's actually pretty enjoyable. I like that. You know, it's a little odd at first, a little awkward, but you know.
Wait. She was eating salad?
Tossing the salad.
Tossing my salad.
So
do you reward her with a kiss straight afterwards, or is that?
Oh yeah, yeah. You make out right after.
Brush your teeth.
Wow, she did the opposite of George from Seinfeld, where he was eating food for his sex. She is throwing food to have sex. Oh my! Wow, this is amazing. Now we know what girls do before they have sex with us. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Oh dear me.
Sir, that means she licked my asshole.
I'm sorry, folks. If you understand it, I was trying to say for our audience of Seinfeld, you know, the sex of food can empower us to have more sex and all that. But anyway, let's move on. We're getting out of control here.
I'm not ordering that dish in Florida. I'll give you the tip.
True.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah. So
it's quite humid. It's quite humid where Jeff lives.
Yeah. So I haven't had my salad tossed in a while though. It's been a while. But you never know. Nick sees Catherine snorting cocaine with Roxy at Boz's club, and they have the whole, you know, scene where, you know, she's out in the dance floor and all that, and it's all like, and they're doing like, you know, Vogue, you know, dancing and shit, like Madonna Vogue dancing and shit out the thing. Michael Douglas doesn't dance, so he just walks out there, you know. At Catherine's home, she ties him to her bed with a silk scarf during sex while Roxy watches. And Roxy has like a nasty moment with Michael Douglas's Nick character where she's like, you better stay away from her or whatever, or some shit. I'll kill you or whatever. Who knows? I can't remember. Moran is angry that Nick has begun a relationship with Catherine and uncovers evidence that Nilsson was paid $50,000 3 months earlier before Nick and Catherine met. Jealous of Nick, Roxy tries to run him over with Catherine's car, but crashes and dies. Somehow Michael Douglas survives that, getting directly hit by the car, and he just flips over it type deal, you know, without any injuries or whatever. I don't know how he pulled that off. Upset, Catherine confesses to Nick about a college encounter with a girl that ended badly when the girl became obsessed with her. Nick identifies that girl as Beth, who claims that it was Catherine who was obsessed. When Nick visits Berkeley, he discovers that Catherine's report against Beth was withdrawn by Nilsson a year earlier, that a college professor of Catherine and Beth was killed with an ice pick in an unsolved homicide that inspired one of Catherine's early novels, and that discovers Nilsson had investigated the unsolved murder of Beth's former husband, and that Beth's lesbian lover may have been involved. So I'll stop there. I'll go to you, Andres. Andres, what are your thoughts on that section of the episode of the movie?
Okay, totally my fuck. Like, this is where we get the twists and turns of the story. Like, it's like it was hard for me to just like, you see Nick foolishly falling for Catherine, Sharon Stone's character, and it's like, why? Like you know that for you, you're saying that she's the killer, and he's doing this thing of like he's this like he's doing the Batman thing of like he's so obsessed of trying to get the killer, so he's doing this like deep thing of like I'm going into the mind of the killer, and so he's trying to do the cat and mouse, mind fuck that she's doing to him and the cops, right? As she was doing in the beginning and the interrogation scene, and so Nick is trying to like flip that on her, but the thing is, he's also allowing his like his lust and like his sex life getting in the way of the work.
Well, we have the Nick interrogation scene during that too, where he gets interrogated in the same room.
Yeah, and so let me like we haven't touched on the Nets the Kruger guy, the Lieutenant Marty person that got killed.
Nielsen.
So yeah, Neeson, right? Neeson. So like because he assaulted him in the office because of the psych file, because he thinks that he sent the file to Catherine, because throughout the film she's spreading breadcrumbs of like information that she should not know. So, stuff like the shooter
The
and
wife.
then the wife. Yeah, like we got the reveal of the wife that she killed herself because of with the undercover thing with the drugs and killing the civilians, all that. And I was shocked about that. I was like, whoa, really? And then your wife commits suicide? I was like, wow, that was like very dark and deep. So like that makes sense why he's so messed up as a person, as Matt said before, like he's exhibiting this like dark turn of sex addict and drug addict, like all that, like in space. Yeah, so after that, and then all of a sudden, here we see Beth come into his apartment, dropping the keys. By the way, I want to point out the keys also have that like Simpsons Bart character, which is funny to see. And of course, they have their arguments and all that. And after that, he gets the call, and of course, the guy, he thinks he gave the psych file to Catherine is killed, which was crazy. And then of course the as Jeff said before, the Nick interrogation scene parallels the same interrogation scene for Catherine. I was like, whoa, and like now that's setting like that. Now I was like, whoa, creepy. It's setting him up as like a killer, but thankfully Beth was there to like give him an alibi, right? So I was like, whoa, what's it's like that part? I was like, what is going on here? And then when honestly, I think Catherine after that meets up with her, because now Nick is suspended, he's on leave, and so is in the apartment, talking. They having this like kind of mouse fleeing, they're talking, and like he pulls up the he does the similar thing what she did to him, offer like a Jack Daniel drink. He gets the ice, he has the ice pick, and after that she leaves, and she tells him that he's going to go to the club, right? And then of course Gus is brought some pizza, and they talk. I love Gus here. He's a great character. He's the best friend we need. And I'm gonna be sad when we get to his. We'll get to there. And then after that, we get the club. Whatever. You see her cheesy Nick. With the drugs and sex. I was surprised she didn't kill her at that moment when they had sex. I was like, what the heck is wrong with you? And so that was really crazy. I mean, this part I was like, whoa, this is like Pornhub 2.5. Like this is the Academy Award winner of their sexy. Like first he first he has this goofy sweater, and the way he takes his pants, I was like, what the hell? Like, man, he really has butt cheeks, as you say, for Matt. And then she ties her to the bed with the white scarf. I was like, what the hell is this 50 Shades of Grey meets I don't know, fucking Seven, something like that. um yeah, so I thought the scene was great. And then, oh my god, the scene where he's talking to the girlfriend, right? Mary, or who was it, Roxy or something like that.
Roxy.
Yeah, that was funny when she's talking like, stay away from her, she's mine. And then he said like, I fucked her, what is it, I fucked her in the century. something like that. That killed me. And then we pan out and we see him full nude in his butt. I was like, wow, perfect scene. The best movie ever in 1992. And then after that, he meets some guns.
His naked ass was the best part of the scene. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Look, what's going on here in Australia? Okay, here in Australia, people, Sharon Stone is the best part of this movie and the most attractive woman. It's definitely not Michael Douglas's asshole. What's going on?
I don't know. They think this the best shot. I was like, what the hell? I don't need to see his butt. I'm saying the line he say, I fucked her.
I think she's the fuck of the century.
The fuck of the century. That's the line that cracked me out. I was like, that was the moment I was like, best movie ever in 1992.
It's very good.
Let me clear that. It's not Michael Douglas' naked butt. That's no. He's a 1 out of 10. All right. I just want to let you know, guys. He's a 1 out of 10. Hugh Jackman, he's 10 out of 10. Okay, when you see him nude, he's a 10 out of 10. Anyway,
still 1 out of 10. That's still a chance. I mean, good God, bro.
All right, 0 out of 10. All right, get off my back, sir. You and your Transformer, whatever that actor's name. Anyway, so wrapping up, he meets up Gus. He's
Excuse me, you were saying the same thing, sir.
Well, I was being equal. I think both women are beautiful, but Sharon is the most hotter. No offense, Cyber. Anyway, shut your mouth, sir.
I'm so offended.
Well, fuck you, sir. It's all our opinion. Anyway, so Gus is drunk. They're talking about the case. A very funny scene. I love the scene where Gus is talking to Michael Douglas in the diner. It's funny, just the way he's vulgar. I love he did the tongue and the poor Spanish people. I was like, wow. And yeah, I agree with Jeff. When Roxy hits him, I was surprised he survived that first impact. That could easily kill him, or at least fracture one of his arms or legs or something like that. We see that, but no. And then she gets killed, and that's where the story turns totally fucked. Now it's like, what the hell's going on here? And so now and then this other murder of the then we get to more Beth's background that really is turning against Nick's mind. This puts Nick more forward into Catherine's side than Beth. The fact that she's hiding her background against him, does turn him a little bit against her, when we get to the end. So overall, I thought this sequence is so crazy, batshit, sex, nudity, the level that I love. We got the great line that I just say that's best movie ever for 1992. So that's all I have to say. And yes, Michael Douglas is a 0 out of 10, people. Okay, Hugh Jackman is a 10 out of 10. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
Okay.
Dear me.
Matthew.
Yeah, look, I've got the dance club, Boz's club sequence is so funny. It is some of the worst 90s movie dancing you will see. It is my version of hell. That club is my version of hell. If I was in there, I reckon I would have had 100 fights in the first 10 minutes. I'd be that annoyed with people. But is it? Have you ever been to a nightclub where people have a rehearsed dance that they do? Roxy and the guy are doing a rehearsed dance. It's so odd. And then they go into the male's toilet. I hope no one needs to take a shit in this club, because there is nowhere to shit. Every stall is being used to either have sex in, have cocaine in, or party in, right? It's where are you going to go? If you get to DEFCON 3 and it's proceed to your nearest toilet, you're going home. You can't take a sneaky shit in the nightclub. So we then get home. I think Sharon Stone looks the best she does the whole movie in this nightclub scene. She is incredibly beautiful. Way better than Jeannie Triplehorn. And when they go home and they go through the whole fuck of the century thing, it's quite a hardcore sex scene. But again, we're now seeing red herrings being laid out. She pulls the scarf. So now we know, okay, this is more, she's the killer. It's more laying it all onto Catherine. Really, really good sex scene again. Then the back and forth with Roxy is great. Saggy Buns Douglas is definitely a 0 out of 10 for how he looks. But that, I think she's the fuck of the century, is a great line. I actually think the movie tries to get a little bit too tricky now. It's starting to really start to try and throw us off the scent. And the whole Beth backstory with her husband, and she went to uni with her, and she knew people that died, and her husband was killed. And now they're starting to throw that, well, maybe it's Beth, right? And we know it's not Beth, but we're led down that trail to think that it's Beth, right? And even at the very, I don't want to get way ahead of it, but even at the very end, they're sort of going, well, it wasn't Beth, was it? So I just think again, it's one of these script things that people do where I really believe that they didn't know when they were writing this who the killer was going to be at the end. There was no clear delineation in that script at this point. I do like the whole the San Francisco. You've got to have a car chase in San Francisco movies, right? It's just apparently the law, right? If you do a movie in San Francisco, it's got to be a car chase. So we have Roxy trying to run over Michael Douglas.
And you know it's San Francisco because they have those like uphill slanted streets in San Francisco. Only San Francisco has that. I've been there, and they do have these long ass straight uphill streets. It's really weird.
But look, I've never been to San Francisco, but I'm assuming it's not that late at night where they are when they go to the diner with Gus, and Gus is an absolute like Tom Cruise style drunk in the diner, and when they leave there, I'm assuming it's not too late, but it's I Am Legend, San Francisco edition. There is not a soul around. So they do this car chase. There's no cars on the road, right? There's nothing. They're doing chicken. They're doing whatever you call it, chicken at each other, and then she just drives off. She just drives off the thing. Like it's a bit ridiculous. It really is a little bit ridiculous, that whole part. Like, they could have killed Roxy a different way. Like, I think that, for one, he's not catching up to that car in his piece of shit car. So she could just drive off and it's gone. I don't know. I find that this part of the movie, it just starts to lose itself a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it's only, this part of the movie's only there to try to throw us off the scent and try to make up other avenues for the murder mystery. When, if they had kept more from us instead of making it so obvious that Catherine was the killer, then they wouldn't need to have all these red herrings thrown at us. If she doesn't pull out a white scarf, then we don't need to, I don't know. There's some good parts here. I think the club scene, once they get home from the club scene, and the sex scene is pretty iconic for a 90s sex scene, but I just find the rest of it is just, and the whole Beth backstory, I find it just to be a little bit too perfect. Like, it's just too perfect that he's having an affair with the woman that also might have had an affair with Catherine or knew her at uni, or, it's all these different things that sort of get thrown up. So, look, I think it does pull itself back into line, but I find this bit to be, it sort of frustrated me a bit, this part of the film.
I agree with you. It does get a little bit disjointed. What are your thoughts, Cyber?
So, yeah, I mean, definitely some of the most iconic 90s dancing sequence ever. It was so freaking hilarious, that whole sequence, because not only is it so bad, it's almost played out like a 90s bad, like, porno, I feel. Or like a Skinamax film. That's how bad it is, like, leading up to the, fuck of the century sex scene, you know what I mean? So I think that scene leading up to the sex scene is actually pretty hilarious, because it's just like so 90s feeling. I mean, the look of it, the look of the club, the dancing and everything just totally makes you makes me think 90s completely. So even watching it, 30 plus years later, I still look at it. It totally brings me back to the 90s. That's just what it makes me look like. And so, then just like everyone else has kind of mentioned, it definitely does get very disjointed after this point. Like the script just seems to all of a sudden kind of fall off the end for some reason. Like it's like almost like the writer was like, he got to this point. He's like, okay, I get to this amazing sex scene. And then he's like, where do I go from here? Like basically is kind of what happens here, unfortunately. And for such a great film, that's such a great thriller, you're like up to this point, you're like, this is really good. We've had a lot of great, sex scenes. We've had a lot of great, sequences here going on and all this kind of stuff. And we're just like, oh, this is so great. And we get to the, club scene and we're kind of like, okay, this is starting to get a little kind of too stupid a little bit here, but it's okay. It's the 90s. That's what it is. And then we get to that great scene and then you're like, okay, fuck of the century type of deal. And then all of a sudden it's like, it just like crash and burns for a few moments because it like tries to take too much information and try to shoot it off in so many directions to get you like confused that it doesn't help the story at all. It actually makes it worse. It makes it not seem as cohesive and as entertaining as it could have been. So leading on with the whole, like everyone's mentioned, the whole Beth thing, trying to push the Beth narrative. You're just kind of like, she's kind of been absent this last like 45 minutes to an hour. Like, why would all of a sudden it be her again? Like we only saw her at the beginning of the film, and then it's all been pretty much about Michael Douglas and Sharon Stone's character. So why would that even be a question? Like, shouldn't it focus more on Roxy or the people that have been around? So that kind of like whatever the writer decided to go in that direction, you're kind of like that. I get he's trying to lead it into another direction to get you to think and everything, but he didn't play it off good so that it would sound and be cohesive. And then you kind of have like this whole thing happening with Roxy and everything and all this kind of stuff. And you're just kind of like I get that, but at the same time, it's like, was that really necessary to kind of, to move the story on? I really don't think it was, but I mean, to have it a little bit in there, like how we have right after the sex scene has ended and they kind of have that talk when he's naked, like you could have ended it there and have something else happen. But at the same time, you're kind of like, okay, you're kind of dragging that out a little bit. Okay. And like the whole thing with the partner and everything, I think is very interesting. But at the same time, it's another one of those things like you should have just focused either on that or the Roxy situation and maybe have them intermingle. And then this would have made this whole section seem very kind of irritating or seem so off and not as cohesive as the rest of the film has been. So I think that, this section, just like everyone else, I would say definitely has some great moments, pretty much the dance sequence and the sex scene. And then as it goes on and leads us up to kind of the end point where we're at, it just kind of falls apart a little bit, but then kind of picks itself back up as we get into the next section. So, unfortunately, we have kind of this little section here that was kind of a letdown a little bit. But otherwise, I still think it's a decent section that gives us quite a bit of fun and, moves the story along.
Okay, thank you, Cyber. Well, this will be our last section here. Nick discovers the final pages of Catherine's book, in which the detective finds his partner's body in an elevator. Catherine ends their affair, leaving Nick upset and suspicious. He meets Moran, his partner, who has arranged to meet Catherine's college roommate in Oakland to learn about Catherine and Beth. Nick discovers Moran stabbed to death with an ice pick in another brutal, stabbing scene in the elevator, as in the novel. Beth arrives and claims that she received a message to meet Moran. Nick suspects Beth of killing Moran and shoots her when he believes that she is reaching for a gun, but finds she is unarmed. Evidence implicates Beth in the murders of Boz, Nilsson, Moran, and her husband. The investigators find extensive photos and newspaper clippings of Catherine. Nick is confused and dejected. Catherine meets him at his apartment and explains her reluctance to commit to him due to her loved ones dying. They have sex and discuss their future. Unseen by Nick, an ice pick lies underneath the bed. And that is the end. Why they threw that in there, I have no idea. But I'll go to you first on this one, Matthew. This will be that's our wrap up question. So, what are your thoughts on the finality of the movie?
Look, I think as convoluted as the earlier part is, where it's trying to throw up the least suspecting suspect as a red herring. So we go from Catherine's the killer to no, it must be Beth's the killer, right? Because we don't suspect Beth the whole time, and suddenly we suspect Beth. I think that this part of the film's actually pretty cool. I like the whole bit in the where Gus gets killed. I think that bit is really cool. I think it's really cool when Nick shoots Beth. I think this whole payoff is quite good, even though it doesn't make a heap of sense, right? And then obviously we find out that Beth is unarmed, and so then we go, well, shit, it must be Catherine who's been playing all this out. So we start to swing between. The thing I love about Catherine is that death is such an aphrodisiac to her. So when Roxy dies, it's like, make love to me. And now it's like, well, I don't want to commit to you because everyone around me is dying, but make love to me and let's talk about our future. She's such a weird person, Catherine. And sometimes it can't be. I don't think any sex is worth putting your life at risk. And if you've got any doubts about anyone, whether if they're a homicidal maniac, which quite clearly Catherine probably is, I don't think it's worth it, right? And I think that the whole end of the movie where we've gone through this whole thing and yet all this evidence is stacking up against Beth, so everyone is like, oh, well, it's Beth that's killed it. But I don't know. Like, from my perspective, Beth's not the murderer. Catherine's the murderer, right? And surely Nick, being the cop of the century that he thinks he is, should know that. In fact, he even says it earlier in the movie that's like, yeah, I'm falling in love with you, but I'm still going to put you away. Right? Now, surely he knows that Beth is not the murderer, that Catherine's the murderer. And then we get thrown again. The big final fuck you from everybody is the ice pick under the bed, where we still aren't sure whether they still don't confirm whether Catherine is the killer or she's not the killer. We're supposed to believe she's the killer because the ice pick's under the bed. But in saying that, Nick bought an ice pick from Kmart or Target, wherever he bought an ice pick for. So who knows? So there's all these things that this is my main concern with the movie. I think as a piece of entertainment, I think it's excellent. I think it's a lot of fun. I think you are guessing the whole movie, but it's forced guessing. They're forcing you to consider other options rather than you coming to the conclusions yourself. And then I think, again, I'm as confused and dejected as Nick at the end of the movie because, you know, whilst I feel somewhat satisfied, I think they've thrown enough bullshit at us to actually tell us who the killer is. And they don't. They still leave it open-ended. So I go away going, well, Catherine's the killer. Catherine was the killer the whole time. Now, is that what they want? Sure, a lot of movies want you to leave it up to yourself and to have your own conclusion. That's wonderful. But I think in a movie that has actually cast so many options for someone to be the murderer, I think they probably need to confirm that Catherine's the killer, and they don't. But other than that, I think I do enjoy this last bit. After the losing its way, it sort of rights the ship a bit in this last part of the film. Done.
Oh, okay. Andres.
Yeah. Boy, we need to give it a proper funeral for our best man, the best partner in cinema history, Gus. Man, when he picked up, our boy Nick, and he was going to the hotel, whatever, the building that the supposed Lisa, whatever, that person that was supposed to be Beth, right? And then when every time the elevator doors was closing, like he was just going to the same floor, level 2, and then of course Nick realized that, oh, this is the same thing from the ending that he just read like a couple, like a couple of scenes ago. I was like, no. And then you see the slasher. Well, I mean, it's Catherine. Catherine is the killer. She uses this pick and like brutally kills him. I was like, no, what are you doing? I was so shocked. I was so sad he died. I was like, come on, Nick, you need to kill Catherine. And then you see Beth. I was like, fuck no. Yeah, I agree with everyone here. The whole like framing Beth is so convoluted. It doesn't make sense. I think what they should have done was that Catherine had a relation with Beth. That could have been way more sense. They were like a fling in college while she was doing that Berkeley thing, right? It makes more sense. It's clean, it's straightforward. Not this whole bullshit about, you know, Beth's husband's death and then and the thing that threw me off when I was watching this section was she had another name. I don't know what was the other name, but like it wasn't Beth. It was just another name like Liz something. And I was like, why are you doing that? Like, if you only do that if she has to be in witness protection from Catherine or something like that, right? Then it made more sense why the other detective, you know, from Seinfeld, Mr. Kruger, like that was the reason he was looking into that. You know, it could have made more sense, but I feel like I agree with Matt and Jeff and everyone you guys brought up. It's so convoluted with this whole frame up. It's like, come on. I don't know. I feel like it was just too. It was being too smart, but it was also making a lot of flaws of this framing device on Beth as the killer, and it wasn't really working because when Nick shoots her, it's like I guess he's under pressure, and like losing his best friend partner is like, come on, like a really emotional thing. Yeah, and, yeah, I thought that was kind of like a letdown for this finale, but I mean the kill was like very spectacular. I mean Paul knows how to do these crazy gore things, so spectacularly. But yeah, and then of course the whole police people like see in the apartment that like the evidence, that she's been obsessive over Catherine and all that. Yeah, and I mean I don't think Catherine is confused. Matt, you brought up how weird Catherine is. I think the movie is is trying to make Catherine as this like very manipulated woman that's just twisting Nick's emotions. Like all of a sudden that she's like, "Oh, there's so many people dying around me. We need to break up." And it's like, come on, like I don't believe that at all. Like you're a killer. You're just setting up Nick so that he doesn't believe that you're the killer. Beth is the killer, and it's like you're being too smart with that. And it's like, come on, the the what they should have done was to have Catherine like be in trouble, like she was kidnapped by Beth. That could have been way more engaging. And plus, that could have been more convincing that she wasn't the killer until the ending, right? Because you have that Alfred Hitchcock kind of ending of like, oh, okay, it's this like confirming that she is the killer, right? But we don't do that. We like we just obviously just told her like yeah she's the killer, um yeah, and they hook back after the case is closed. Nick is I guess clear from his investigation from the internal affairs because the captain had this weird grin, and he's like, well, Nick, you're clear. And I was like, oh, okay. So I guess he's done with the internal affairs or something like that. And then he goes back with Catherine because right, Catherine was in the apartment, and uh what else? Catherine, um, they both go to bed, and then like by the way, the music is so funny. Like the music by was it Jerry Ghost? What is it? Jerry Goldsmith.
Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, great composer. Love the music here, but sometimes the music goes way over the top with the sex scenes, and here. Uh, it's like, oh, she's gonna kill Nick, Oh no, it's back to sex.
No.
It's like, oh, maybe this time it's gonna happen. It's like, nope, no. And then after that, it's like we go pen down, and it's like there's the ice pick, and I'm like, okay, what the hell are you telling me? I guess she is really in love with Nick. I guess I don't know. So yeah, overall, uh, it's a decent finale. It's nothing special. It's just this like typical police finale of like, oh, the killer is not caught. This is the real killer. Like if you've seen like films like The Bone Collector with Angela Jolie, like that has a way better ending of like the reveal of the killer here, or 7, and this ending just is way is convoluted. It's okay. I don't like it, so it's okay. That's all I have to say.
Okay, Cyberneticshark, sir, finish this up.
So I mean, the ending basically gets the point across of kind of like leaving it very ambiguous. Like, oh, was Catherine really the killer? Was Beth really a killer? Even though Nick kills her, and we have the death of his partner, and we have kind of all this kind of like crazy stuff happening that we honestly don't know exactly who really is good or bad, really, if you think about it. So I think it's kind of interesting how they end the film. It's I would say it's very strong, but at the same time, I think that it's could have been done better. But overall, I think that it does a pretty decent job. I mean, it ends off giving us another sex scene, which was absolutely hilarious. I was just kind of like, I'm like, okay, like this is kind of like right at the end, and then all of a sudden, let's end the movie. Like we're like, it's kind of like, okay, like Paul Verhoeven, were you really horny the whole time you were filming this film, sir? I'm just asking a question for a friend. And I think it's hilarious. Like that's how they end it with them doing it, and there being an ice pick underneath the bed. Like so, it's kind of like totally leaving it like totally open. Like, ooh, was Catherine really the killer? Was the wrong person killed? Type of deal. So I think it's kind of interesting that that's what they decided to go with, and kind of keeping it very almost very suspenseful, really, giving you no real ending conclusion, really, just kind of giving you like this very ambiguous ending. So I think it's a decent ending, but not the most solid. But overall, I think they do a good job with it, and I think that there's a lot they could have done, that they could have added, and I think with what little script apparently that they had for the ending, I think Paul Verhoeven did a good job with what he had and gave us a pretty decent thing. So I think overall it did a good job.
Okay, gentlemen, ratings. I'll start us off. I'm going to give Basic Instinct a 9. I'll go right back to you, Cyber. Give me your rating, sir.
I'll give it a 9.
Okay, 2 9s. 18 total. Matthew, Born to Watch. Your rating, sir.
7.5, and the reason it gets 7.5 is purely because it's just a bit too smart for itself. I think it just I don't know. It just doesn't. It's not quite aware of what it wants to be, and I don't think that they knew who the killer was the whole movie. Anyone playing it, I don't think Sharon Stone knew whether she was the killer in the movie when she was making it.
The movie certainly does fall off a bit towards like the second half or whatever.
Yeah, I think up until the nightclub scene, it's a great movie. It really is. And this after the sex scene, but I think from then on, it just loses itself trying to be a little bit too smart. 7.5, still a good movie and thoroughly enjoyable, and I will watch it again. But I gave Backdraft. I think I gave Backdraft 8 last week, and I think that it's just a little bit under that.
Okay, Andres.
Yeah, speaking of 8, I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. I think, despite its faults, it's a great film. It's a watchable film. It's well paced. I mean, it's well made by Paul. Despite our nitpicks about the plot and the whole thing, it's still a enjoyable film. I thought, I think Paul did such a good. The director Paul, Hoven, did such a great job of like putting the film together. Like you're being entertained by this crazy like murder mystery kind of type of film, and he really does that, and he brings elegance and class to this like erotic thriller, and it set up the template of like these other copycats in the 90s, so it accomplished something well, and I mean it was a well done film. So yeah, I'll give it 8 out of 10. Just the finale just is a big letdown. I think they could have done more streamlined the plot line with the framing Beth and all that, because it was so bad when we get to that. But I love this. I love this movie. It didn't disappoint me when I like fully watched this film. So I was surprised about that.
Okay. Well, thank you, fellas. That is our wrap up of Basic Instinct 1992 thriller classic. We appreciate everybody out there who catches and enjoys our review and our takes on the movie. We're going to go ahead and plug out of here so we can get everybody out of here for the show tonight. And we're going to start off with Andres, the pop culture guy, sir.
Oh, awesome. Well, I want to thank everyone tonight for joining us in this awesome Basic Instinct live review. Matt, it was great to see you again, brother. Sorry, I missed out Backdraft last week. Yeah, so I just recently posted yesterday. I separate The Last of Us chair reaction that me and Jeff did last couple Sundays ago, so you can check that out if you want to see the full trailer reaction that we did for Endor and Last of Us. Is right there. After this live stream review, I'm gonna post the John McClane tribute because Bruce Willis' birthday was yesterday, 70, which is crazy. Hopefully he's doing well. And then this Sunday coming up, I'm gonna have me and Jeff, and hopefully Saber can join us. The Ace Ventura 2 When Ninja Calls live stream review. That's gonna be fun. Crazy movie. Poor Ace didn't save the raccoon in the beginning, but it goes downhill crazy. Crazy movie, but I love it as a kid. So please join us Sunday. It's going to be a blast. And yeah, that's the content I'm going to get. So thank you, everyone. And I do shorts too. I do shorts too. You can check that out as well.
All right. Okay. He does shorts too, folks.
Yeah, just check shorts and yeah, why not? If you enjoy it or not.
Cyberneticshark, sir.
All right, guys. So if you enjoyed me here on the MCU'S Bleeding Edge, you can check out my solo content. You can find me under Cyberneticshark. You'll find me on YouTube, TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Patreon, all those good places. You know, all those good places. You know, you can check out. Always fun to check out. Check them out. Anyways, if you haven't checked out my channel recently, you can check out my most recent review there, Hard Eyes, which is a romantic horror comedy drama / horror film that's from the guys that brought you Freaky and Happy Death Days and stuff like that, and stars Mason Gooding and Olivia Holt. Really great film. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. Or if you haven't checked out the Monkey review yet, definitely check that one out too. Really great film from Osgood Perkins. Really fun. And of course, as always, I'll be having more stuff up for you guys soon. I definitely have a few more new reviews to come out for you guys, especially from February and beginning of March. Mickey 17 I have coming up for you guys, along with a few others. Maybe some great reviews from this past couple days ago when I saw a couple new movies. You'll be seeing stuff like that. My shorts, if you haven't seen, are my most recent are my 3 films I just saw this past couple days. Black Bag, Novocaine, and The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie. You can check those out. Really fun little films. All were really fantastic, especially the Looney Tunes movie. If you're a huge fan of Looney Tunes, you got to see this movie. It is freaking epic. It is so good. Absolutely loved it. Thought it was really great and just all around a fun film. Definitely check those out if you haven't seen them, or you can check out either Boba Hotep or The Audition. And I'll be having more of those up for you guys too soon when I see some more stuff for you guys to put up about. So as always, thank you guys. Thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And we appreciate you guys. And thank you for watching us here on the MCU'S Bleeding Edge.
Okay, one more left to go. Matthew from Born to Watch, sir. What do you want to tell us about Born to Watch? Has anything changed since last week?
Oh, you went and saved the best for last. Thank you very much for having me, guys. I enjoyed thoroughly the time we spent together. And I enjoyed thoroughly talking about Michael Douglas's saggy ass cheeks today. So Born to Watch, we're just 4 Aussie blokes who like to sit around and talk shit about movies. We don't take the movies or ourselves too seriously. You can find us on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, any podcast platform that floats your boat. We've got a big couple months coming up, moving into our 3rd birthday. So we've just reviewed Escape from New York, which was great. I hadn't watched that for a little while, so we reviewed that this week, and that was a lot of fun to watch again. And next week we're doing the 1986 Best Picture winner Platoon. So very excited about doing that. But moving forward, a couple that we're very excited to do. We're doing the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and for our birthday we're going to do Heat with Robert De Niro and Al Pacino, which will be a lot of fun. So
that's a good one.
If you want to hear more on Basic Instinct, we have reviewed it about a year ago. So go back through the files and find it, and we have a lot of fun. We delve very deeply into the very intimate relationship between Michael Douglas and Jeannie Triplehorn's characters and the outcome of that infamous scene. So, thanks, boys. I thoroughly enjoy the time I spend with you.
Most definitely. And that is a reciprocal thing, Matthew. We love having you on, brother. Well, folks, that is it for us tonight. For all the gentlemen on the show tonight, I just want to say, thank you very much, guys. Good show. We appreciate everybody out there. Please do us a solid. Follow the podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave a comment, all that good stuff. We appreciate all of you out there. Have a great rest of your weekend. And we will see you on Wednesday for Daredevil episodes 5 and 6 with a couple of new guest creators joining us for the first time, and Imran coming back from Jock and Nerd. So we'll see you next time. Peace.
Please give me cock. Oh, please give me cock. I want a cock. I remember the first time I went to America, I was at the airplane. I asked flight attendants that, can I get a cola? And she asked me, excuse me? I keep saying, cola, cola, cola.